We still say.
All right, I'm taping you, Dad.
You're taping me, yes.
You're tell me about you took these aptitude tests for the Navy.
No, but before that, I wanted to be a pilot. So I was going to join the Air Force Academy, and I had vision tests, and I had 20/40 vision in one eye. And back in those days, they wouldn't accept pilots for 20/20. You had to have 20/20 vision. I can think now they changed the standards. Mm-hmm. But back in those days, to be a pilot, you need 20/20 vision, so you can't be a pilot. So I said, to hell with it. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be a navigator or something like that. So forget it. So I decided, well, I'm not going to go to offices, to any one of the military academies. I just joined as an enlisted man. So I took the Navy. I took the standard battery test, scored high on them, and they said, "Oh, hey, this is great. You're going to train you as an electronics technician," which was about the highest thing, right then. Work on missiles. The missiles were just coming on board, and the fire control system and things like that. Just, we'll send you to ET school. So, oh yeah, good, no problem. So they gave me a bunch of paperwork, and I started reading through it, and then the bottom line was something: I hereby voluntarily agree to extend my enlistment by a period of 4 years. So, what's this shit down here? What's this crap? He says, well, yeah, we're going to send you to school. You're going to have to spend more time in the Navy. I said, yeah, forget it. I don't want it. So anyway, I became a deck aide, which was just menial labor. I mean, deck apes are the one in deck division. They do all the things like drop the anchor. Mm-hmm. You clean, you wash the deck, you paint the ship, you load boxes in and out, just
maintenance.
Yeah, just running the ship, deck division. You don't want that actually runs the ship, drive the boats and things like that. So they used to tell me I had the bigger GCT ARI score than the captain, anybody on the ship, and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so they had the deck division. But so that's what test scores what we're talking about. But the funny thing was, or the lucky thing for me was that about 2 months after I got on board ship, just so happened that most of the people rotated off. You come in for a certain period of time, then you leave the ship. So all of a sudden I was one of the old timers, and we had a whole bunch of new people. So they put me in charge of things. Mm-hmm. Because I knew with the ship and I knew what was going on. So I became a squad leader. I was still an enlisted man, but I was a squad leader. And so I'd be in charge of a bunch of people doing work. So like one time, we were working. We had some emergency getting underway. We had to work hard to get the ship moving, and I jumped in and I pitched in and was helping. And so the bosun's mate came by and chewed me out. He says, "What the hell are you doing?" He says, "Well, we got to get underway quick. I'm helping out. We want to get out." He says, "That's not your job." He says, "See, while you're working up over here, those guys over there are fucking off." He says, "Your job is to walk around with a cup of coffee and just make sure that everybody else is at work." So that was great, and essentially that was my job. From then on, I had a coffee cup that I clipped to my belt. So I used to walk around and drink coffee all the time and make sure that everybody else was doing the work. That was my job. That, and I was given a cushion job, like I was in charge of a boat. So if there was nothing else to do, I'd climb in the boat and just take care and stress out, de-stress, take a nap in the boat. Anyway, that's
what was the name of the ship you were on?
USS Talbot County. It was LST 1153.
Where's Talbot County? Where is that out of?
Maryland. And it was very funny because the ship actually went to Talbot County, Maryland during the bicentennial or something. With some X 100-year anniversary of the county, we actually went there and we had a big crab festival, and we were dined and wined and everything by the local population, which was interesting. Yeah, I was in a TC. The Talbot County.
Did you see any cool accidents, mutilations, or anything?
Yeah, I'll get into the accident, but we even had songs like we sailed with Captain Tuna, the chicken of the sea.
Do you remember it?
No, we sailed with Captain Tuna, the chicken of the sea. Somewhere in there, that's where the Talbot County, the TC, we used to call it the TC, 1153, Talbot County, TC 1153. But that was all part of the song. Accidents. I went through a bunch of hurricanes. Yeah. One of the hurricanes we went through, you go out during hurricanes. You don't stay in port because you get smashed against the pier and you have all kind of problems.
Oh,
So you go out, and we went through a hurricane. LST is
scary.
flat bottom. So they're the LST are the ships. You've seen them in the movies. They actually drive up to the beach and they drop a ramp.
You were captain of one of those.
No, that was my ship.
Your whole ship was like
The
that?
whole
Oh,
ship
okay.
was like that in LST. So they would drive up to the
They
beach,
pitch
open
a
the
lot
bow
more than
doors.
in the water.
Hmm?
They pitch a lot more in the water than
Exactly, because they're flat bottom.
Mhm.
We used to have my record was a 53-degree roll sideways. So it's easier to walk on the bulkhead, easier to walk on the wall than it is to walk on the floor.
okay.
53-degree roll was our record. We didn't capsize. But anyway,
Wow.
during a hurricane, you head into the waves, right? So your bow goes up, and you actually, if you see, you have a couple of ships in formation, the other LSTs, you can actually see it. You get daylight under the bow. I mean, the whole thing comes out of the water, right? And we hit swells so hard during the hurricane that when that bow went out of the water, the ship got stressed in a way that it was not supposed to get stressed, and it cracked in the top. So, if this is the ship, right, the bow went out of the water, and it cracked right across the main deck on the top, from left to right, starboard to port. And you could go, after that, you could watch the crack opening and closing as the ship was moving.
That was scary.
It was a little bit scary.
What was the material on the deck? Was it wood
Steel.
deck?
It's all steel. Oh no, it's steel. Some places they have the steel deck covered by wood for special
Right.
reasons.
Did you think that you were gonna make it?
Well, we
Or you
weren't,
were prepared for?
we were not that worried about it. We used to have the abandoned ship drills and things like this. And one of the things they tell you, like when you get into the lifeboat or the boat or whatever you're getting into, and they say the nearest land is Bears. It's that many miles this way. So we used to have a joke like the nearest land is 2 miles this way. So anyway, we went through a couple of hurricanes. I went through a couple of collisions.
Okay. Other boats.
Other ships, yeah. We sideswiped the ship. One of them, we put a big enough gash in the side of our hull that water was coming in. I was on the damage control team. It's very interesting in those days. The first damage control was you had wood all over the place. You had big beams
Okay.
ready for emergencies in storage areas.
Okay.
So we had a crack in the hull, water steaming in. Take a mattress,
Just shove it against it?
shove it
Oh,
against the
wow.
crack, and then you put the wood against, you put some plywood against the back of the mattress, and then you brace it in place with wood. That's how you stop it. Good enough until you get back into port.
You can just weld it correctly.
Yeah.
Then they welded it and did everything else. So
It's crazy.
How long did it take you to get back into port?
I don't remember, a couple of weeks or something like that, whatever. I mean, to get going again, we got into port.
Yeah.
We were never that far away from
Oh, okay.
port. Boats, I sank 3 times in my boats. I was an assault boat coxswain.
You're not very good at it then, were you? I mean, you cost the government like $750,000.
But it's okay. It was never intentional. The landing craft, the flat bottom, they have the same kind of ramp where they drive up to the beach. So you head to the beach, and you drop your ramp, the Marines go charging off, Geronimo. And then comes the tricky part. You have to back up into the surf, you back up, and then you're turning around, and then between the waves, and you want to catch the next wave with your bow. Well, sometimes your timing is off, or whatever happens.
Sideways.
But that's what happened to me one time. The wave got me sideways, flipped the boat.
Oh,
So I got trapped underneath the boat for a while, but I got out.
scary.
The other time it sank was I was carrying a jeep. I can carry a squad full of men, which was it 12 men, something like that, full gear, or I can carry a jeep and a couple of people. So we were carrying a jeep in a boat, and the jeep just barely fits into the boat,
Okay.
And we're training off North Carolina, and there was a very strange cross swell. We actually had, waves going in this direction and waves going in this direction. So you couldn't really head straight into the waves. So the boat was giving it, weird things like that. The jeep shifted and knocked a hole in the side of the boat, which is plywood.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, it just took in water and went down. And this the third time that it was the same thing. I got swamped leaving the beach. You know, like I said, that was the tricky part. Sometimes you just couldn't do it. The boat just wouldn't turn up. The waves are so close. Straight? You can't take a very big swell backing up because your back is low. You take on water.
Oh.
So you have to time it, and sometimes the waves are just so close together that
3 rounds impossible.
You just couldn't turn around. Saltboat coxswain during the Second World War, I think, had a life expectancy of 17 minutes during amphibious landings. I had 4 people backing me up. We had five coxswains for every boat.
Because you get shot?
Yeah, you're the only guy that sticks his head up over the side of the boat because you have to see where you're going.
Okay.
So you're up and back, and you were steering the boat with head and upper body exposed.
Yeah.
So it was not much life expectancy. And what we used to do, we always have this competition with Marines. We used to carry Marines, but Navy and Marines, they fight among each other except when you're gang up against the Army or something like that. Then,
right.
Then you belong to the same service. But otherwise, Navy and Marines, Jarheads and Swabbies, they don't really get along. So what I used to do sometimes, and other people did it too. I get maps. Like we have a landing. We have to take them to get the Marines to this beach, and you drop the thing. So I used to study them, and I hit a sandbar, maybe 100 yards offshore.
I drop them off.
And so, okay, that's as far as I can go, and I drop the ramp. The Marines start charging off. Geronimo, take 3 steps and submerge. They'd be carrying a 60-pound back and their rifles and stuff like that. We never lost anybody, because they'd have life jackets on and things like that.
Right.
But we used to get chewed out for that. I'm sorry, I missed the sandbar on the map or something like that, or I saw the sandbar on the map, but I thought it was 200 yards, further south, and got chewed out. But some of the officers, they knew what was going on, so we sort of a wink and slap on the wrist, don't do it again. But exercises, war games, they were serious. I mean, we lost people during war games because of accidents and things.
Was it live ammo on friendly fire, or?
They use live ammo. They shoot over your head, but every now and then, the problem is a ship would be shooting their cannons, right?
Okay.
And usually they fire broadside. In other words, they'd be going this way, and they're shooting towards the beach.
Okay.
And the ship would roll. And so they'd have to time it. I mean, the guns would be elevated and be depressed. And if somebody timed it wrong,
they shoot too low.
They shoot too low at the beach.
Oh, yeah.
And that happens sometimes. They hit the beach and hit another ship. Those things happen. Then the pilots were crazy. I used to be on the bridge and look out or something like this. I'd be looking down at them.
The aircraft pilots?
Our pilots, jet. And
Yeah.
they'd fly, below mast level, below bridge level.
Yeah.
At full speed, not full speed, but, fast.
Right.
So every now and then we'd mess up. But usually the fatalities that we had mainly was because of drowning.
Yeah.
Drowning and crushing. It was tricky,
Between ships?
Yeah, and the boat and the ship. The way we put the landing craft in, I'd be in a boat, and it would swing out like little davits. They swing out, and you're over the water, right? And then they lower it into the sea, and you'd have to time it because there's waves. Your ship is traveling, so there's waves rolling in, or even if it's standing still, you face on the anchor, you're facing the waves. So you have to go down there, and you have to unhook. You hit the water, you unhook. Otherwise, you'd be stuck in the air. Like you attach in the front, you attach in the back. If you don't unhook in both places, you tilt like this when the waves go away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the tricky part is getting the boat in the water. Then once you have the boat in the water, you throw those nets overboard. You've seen the nets that you practice in, I think, in ninja stuff.
Yeah.
You put those nets over the side of the ship, and then the Marines climb down those nets to get into the boat.
Yeah.
So they're climbing down the nets, and meanwhile the boat does this on the side here.
It's
hitting the side. And I've seen guys come down and freeze up because they see down there, the boat will be going up and down 4 or 5 feet, moving in and out and stuff like this. If they don't time it right, they get stuck between the boat and the side of the ship. That's it. So my ship never lost anybody, not while I was on it, but we lost typically, during a landing, big exercise, you'd lose 2 or 3 people.
Oh, wow.
Because of, but then, they say, hey, it's just because the waves are rough or something like this, we can't call off the exercise because during a war, you'd still be going in.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to wait for perfect weather to attack the enemy. So I was there at the Cuban Missile Crisis. We were ready to hit Cuba. We're, big flotilla. And that same thing, I had maps and everything, where a particular beach in Cuba that I was supposed to hit. A couple of times we got the word, okay, we're going in at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, the boat's going to water. So everybody was just, standing around smoking and talking, nobody would sleep. Then a couple hours before they would call it off. And I don't know if it was because Kennedy changed his mind or because it was just a drill.
Yeah.
And, they just wanted to see if, how long it took us to get ready or whatever. So, we never landed in Cuba, but we were ready to get in. Got a medal for that, too.
Wow.
Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal or something.
Okay.
We said, I think the citation states that I was ready to face the enemy and, whether or not, they give you the medal whether or not you actually face the enemy or not.
Uh-huh.
So I never had to face the enemy.
Wow.
So.
Where is that
That's
medal?
really cool.
Where is that medal?
I never got it. I mean, I was issued, I have the right for it, but I never got it. I got the ribbons, that's all.
Why don't you get it?
Maybe I will. You put it somewhere, I display it somewhere.
That's something that you.
But yeah, but it's so dinky. I mean, people went to Vietnam and really faced danger.
Yeah, but that's not for you though. It's for your family.
Okay, no, I'll look into it. Armed Forces Expedition. I'm trying to think. I don't think I got the Good Conduct Medal. I was a hash mark seaman, which means that I never made it past. I didn't want to advance. I enjoyed my job.
Okay.
I had no I had responsibilities and stuff like
So
that.
did you not try, or you refused?
No, I didn't want it. A couple of things, like for example, they offered me I could become duty driver. I flunked the government driving test. I didn't want to be duty driver because if you're duty driver and you get woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you go pick up the captain somewhere. So I didn't want that. So I did a lot of things like that where, I didn't want to move on. I didn't move up. It was not ambitious in that sense.
So you flunked it on purpose.
Yeah, I flunked it on purpose. I had stick shift and I ground the gears. So. Anyway. And then, all along, they were offering me to re-enlist. And I had cushy jobs. Like I said, I was in charge of a boat, which is fun too. Every so many years, you go through all the survival things in the life rafts.
Mm-hmm.
So back in those days, they still had cigarettes in them. So that's where we got our cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
We changed
And the
them.
boats?
Yeah, that was part of. In those days, it was considered survival rations. So you had food, you had water, you had sanitary napkins just in case. I don't know why, because the ship didn't have any female. I guess that was just standard SOP.
In case there was a hole or a gash in the hull, and you could plug it up.
Possibly.
Brace it with some toothpicks.
But I remember the real Lucky Strikes, and I think it was weird. 4 cigarettes to the box, or 6 cigarettes to the box, a small box of Lucky Strikes. So we used to get those, and the survival rations we used to eat those, which were good. Kind of like essentially protein bars, and they had ham and eggs and cans and things like this. So we used to.
Oh. Like Spam?
Oh yeah, Spam. Oh, eating was interesting. At least in those days, you couldn't get a cereal without bugs in it. You had little individual packages of cereal.
Yeah.
You'd open them up, they'd always have bugs in them. And I don't know where along the supply chain the bugs got into them, but it was just impossible. And I like cereal and breakfast.
This sounds more like a Brazil story than a Navy story.
Well, so I trained myself. I said, well, I'm going to see there, and I watch people. I mean, they'd examine every spoonful of cereal to see if there's a bug in it, and they would eat it very, very carefully. I said, that's no way to enjoy it. The hell with that. So I took a box of cereal, opened it up, collected all the bugs together in one corner. I had a spoonful of them. And I said, well, I can do it. So from that day on, I would just open the can, the box of cereal, and I would eat the cereal, bugs and all. Never worried about it, and enjoyed my cereal.
Oh, you just ate the bugs?
I just ate the bugs.
Did the first spoonful of bugs and you never cared again?
Yeah, he says, well, I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah.
No problem. And the captain had a ritual. I don't know if it was just that captain or it's a Navy practice or not. That new officers, they would get periodically assigned to eat with the enlisted men, just to make sure. I guess the intent was to make sure that the officer would see that the enlisted men gets fed appropriate food, and the conditions that the crew was eating on. So when we had new officer coming in, we'd always put on a show for him. Like we'd be up there and says, oh, can I have some of your mashed potatoes? And we'd dig in with our hands and take the mashed potatoes with our hands, eat them. Just totally gross them out, talk about sickening things and, just get the officers really getting going.
They got hazed.
Do you remember any people you served with?
Do I remember what?
Any friends that you served with?
Oh, yeah. There was... Yeah, I'm trying to remember the names now. There was one crazy guy from New England. His thing is that what he was famous for was one time he caught a seagull and killed it by chopping his throat out, biting his throat. That's how he killed the seagull.
You saw him do this?
It's Casey. No, I didn't see him, but other people saw him. No, other people saw him on the ship. That was Casey. It was Crazy Casey. Then there was...
Do you remember his last name?
People used to go by one name. I don't know, sometimes his first name, sometimes the last name, but everybody just go by
What was his rank?
But they were enlisted men.
So
I don't think it was petty officer. It was E2, E3, something like Seaman First Class. There was Jonesy. He was a tumbler in acrobatic and things like this. He used to do things like, we'd be in a bar or something like this, and some guy would piss him off, and he says, okay, I'm going to do a backflip. I'm going to do 2 backflips and kick him in the nuts or something like that. And he'd do it. Just incredible. Small guy, but very, very agile, acrobat and things like that.
Yeah.
He used to do things like this. We had one guy, Persic. He was junior Mr. Milwaukee and runner-up Mr. Wisconsin or something like that. He was a bodybuilder.
Persic is his first name or last name?
Last name.
Was he good looking?
Athletic. He was big. He was a little bit slow, but he was big. His thing used to be like, he'd be in a bar or something like that. If he wanted to impress a girl or something, he'd rip his sleeves, flexing his muscles.
I'm sure it worked every time.
I think what he did is he actually probably, loosened the seams already or whatever, so that he could do it. But he was strong.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I did at Warship, I told you, I got in there, and the reason I was old timer, I got in with the tough guys, so nobody was screw with me. I wasn't that much of a fighter.
Yeah.
But my friends were. Those are the kind of people I told you that. The other guy was, I forget his name. He was a coal miner from Kentucky, from Hardin County, Kentucky. Coal miner. Big arms.
I don't remember his name, huh?
I don't remember his name right now.
No last
names. Still his face, huh?
No last names.
Like I said, first name and last names, different ones.
Okay.
But he was, I think he was a psychopath. I think he probably killed somebody, just never really talked about it too much. Coal miner from Hardin County, Kentucky. One of the toughest guys I've ever seen, in fights and things like that. Mm-hmm. Then the other guy, I don't remember his name either. He was from Florida. He wrestled alligators for a living before he joined the Navy. Mm-hmm. So, interesting friends. And had a lot of fun together. And
Did you keep in touch with any of them?
Not from my ship. One of the guys I still keep in touch with. Well, this was back from high school, and we joined the Navy together, but we went different ships. So, George, I just talked with him a couple of days ago. We still keep in touch. His service number is one above or one below mine. I forget which one. And 3 of us joined, and I actually pissed in a bottle for one of them to get him so that he was able to join Mike, the third guy, because He flunked the urine test the first time.
Because of drugs?
Huh? No, I think sugar or something, whatever. So I actually, we switched bottles and stuff like that, and I pissed in his bottle for him to get accepted. But anyway, no, from my ship, we kept track for a while, but no. And again, it's kind of thing. It's weird. I mean, you were buddies aboard ship, and you were buddies when you were on the beach together, but you sort of kept family away. You didn't visit each other's families or something like that. They'd go off, on their own. When they got discharged, that was it. Or nobody really switched ships or anything because we left it was a small ship. We got a pretty tight crew. Got to know each other.
What years were you serving?
61, 62, 63. So.
How old were you when you came out?
21, 22. 21. Yeah, I turned 21 in Panama, which was, I mean, when you were a kid, I remember like in Ohio, you needed 18, you drank 3-2 beer. 21, you could drink regular beer. So it was this big thing. You waited to be 21 so you could go to nightclubs and you could drink beer. I turned 21 in Panama. They didn't give a damn how old you were. Mm-hmm. You could go to all the bars, whatever age you wanted to. So, yes, I was 21 when I got out, 22.
Mm-hmm. Where did you go when you got out?
When I got out, my parents had moved to California.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when you went to UCLA?
From Iowa?
Ohio.
Oh.
But I visited my parents before. I took twice. Well, I visited my parents, and when I visited them, I hopped military planes, which was great. I hitchhiked. You were able to. I don't know if you're still able to do it now or something like that. Essentially, you go from airport, airbase to airbase, and just if there's space available. I was traveling under orders. My orders were to visit my family in California. So, I hopped various military flights, and my last flight was from off of Nebraska, which was the SAC headquarters. I had a general's plane. It was going back empty to San Francisco, which was great because I was in it was a twin-engine general's plane, really luxurious and everything else. I was there with the steward up there and having drinks and things, and flew in the general's plane. I was the only passenger. It was coming back empty to San Francisco, and then I took, I guess, a Greyhound from San Francisco down to LA to my parents. When I got out of the Navy, I hitchhiked cross country. It took me 68 hours from Norfolk to Los Angeles.
What was the motivation for that?
I just wanted to see the country in between.
Okay. You didn't get to see much in 68 hours, though.
No, but
Wait, you started in Norfolk, you said?
Yeah.
Wait, so you got out of the Navy, you went to LA, and then you flew back?
Oh no, I visited them once when my parents moved to California while I was in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
So I visited them once, and then when I got out, I went there.
Any cool stories from hitchhiking? Any scary stories? Any disgusting
No,
stories?
I mean back in those days,
What kind of people picked you up? Truck drivers?
You every now and then you would get the gay, some homosexual, something like that, but never any problems. I mean, there would go some, and you just say, yeah, I don't swing that way, and most of the time that was still cool. I mean, I think once or twice, the guys just got pissed off and they just dumped you anywhere. But usually they would take you someplace where you could, hitch another ride, like a truck stop or. Back in those days, like the good place to hitchhike was like on the turnpikes where they had the rest stops. Mm-hmm. You get dropped off at a rest stop, and then you'd wait the rest stop exit. So you get that. Met some interesting people. Talked to them. Truckers were good. Truckers are slow. I mean, they don't travel as fast as cars, but they're steady and they cover a lot of ground. Mm-hmm. So you just meet some interesting people talking.
Would you pay them?
The only places where you would pay, and that was understood, is like outside of military bases, like on a long weekend or something like that. I had a girlfriend in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and I was in Norfolk, Virginia. So I have to hitchhike there on the weekend. So they were going race. You'd stand outside the base, and guys would swing by, usually other military guys.
Yeah.
And there was, I forget what, it wasn't reasonable. Like, we went as far as Philadelphia, $20 or something like that, $30. Essentially, you share the gas money. And then after that, you just hitchhike on your own. But right outside the military base, a lot of them was where people would even tell you, right, not that you were expected to pay, but they would tell you, it costs you that much to New York, or it costs you that much to Philadelphia, or it costs you that much to Washington to get a ride. And then, like I said, in those days, you were hitchhiking in uniform. You get rides by people. I mean, patriot type things. Was still a good thing. Mm-hmm. And the cops didn't mess with you. I mean, even hitchhiking was illegal or something like this. I never got into trouble because I hitchhiking uniform. And so when I came here, the 68 hours, I was great. Like I'd be hitting a ride with somebody, and they would be getting tired too. And they say, "Well, I'm going to stop here for the night or something like this." And I says, "Well, look for me in the morning. See if you see me." And I get out and I get somebody who just gotten up. So like my last ride was somewhere from New Mexico all the way to I think from Albuquerque, all the way to LA.
Wow.
It was my last ride. And I got him early in the morning, like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, Albuquerque, and got a ride all the way.
Cool.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of hitchhiking, like in the Navy. We were on a 3-way rotation, so it means that one weekend you'd have the duty. You'd have Saturday and Sunday, you'd have to be board shift. You only have Friday nights off. Then the next week, you'd have what they call a short weekend, and you'd get, Saturday afternoon and Sunday off. And then the third week, you'd have a long weekend. You get Friday evening, Friday afternoon off until Monday morning. Mm. So like on a short weekend, we used to go to Washington, D.C., or we used to go to Philadelphia. Long weekend, we go further, and then, like I had this girlfriend in Massachusetts. I used to go to Ohio, to Cleveland, visit my parents and friends and things like that. So yeah, you hitchhike a lot. Mm-hmm. That was, the way of transportation.
When did you get a bike?
When did I get a bike? When I got out. I didn't have that much money, so I got a motorcycle, small one, a 150 or something like that. When I was living with my parents in Tahunga, what was it? No, not. Damn it, I can't remember. What's north of Pasadena?
North Pasadena?
Yeah, or northwest of Pasadena.
Still in the valley.
If you go from downtown and you head north, instead of going right to Pasadena, you keep on going straight to Tahunga.
I don't know.
I forget.
You're not talking about kind of the park or North Ridge. You're talking to the right of that.
To the right of that, east of that.
Up to 134. I don't know then.
Well, anyway, damn, what can't I remember? I wonder if that's Alzheimer's or something. Anyway, so my parents were living there. And, shortly after I got out, Kennedy got shot. So you can time that, because I remember I was in Big Tonga. There's another name.
Okay.
Anyway,
Where were you when Kennedy got shot? Do you remember?
21, 22.
Where were you?
That's what I'm saying. I was there. My parents' house already.
Oh, okay.
I was visiting my parents. That's why I remember that.
And that wasn't too far.
No.
I mean, he was in, San Francisco? Or where was he? He got shot.
Kennedy? No. If I'm talking about Kennedy, JFK, he got shot in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Dallas. It's his brother got shot in San Francisco.
I remember that.
So I got a motorcycle, and I was working, and I started UCLA.
As what? TA?
No, I started.
Start studying?
As a student, I went in as a regular undergrad student. Back in those days, I was in a GI Bill, which was very fortunate. I think I told you. I mean, since I was a military veteran, Vietnam was getting hot, but I was 4A, which meant I was a veteran. I didn't have to worry about the draft. I had the GI Bill. Back in those days, I think tuition was $78, the whole thing, and I think whatever. I mean, it was the whole registration and tuition and everything was a couple $100 or something. This is UCLA. So the GI Bill covered my registration, my tuition, covered my books, and I had some money left over for rent.
So you lived in Westwood?
Well, when I started out, I lived with my parents in the beginning, so, and I started working part-time. Then I worked in construction in the summer, saved up for a motorcycle, got a motorcycle. And yeah, my big bike was a 305 Honda. It was a dirt bike, but street legal. I used to ride in the desert and Angels Forest, all those Angels Crest Highway. I used to go to Big Tahunga in the snow, and Big Tahunga to Big Bear, Lake Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead in the snow. So La Crescenta is what I was thinking of before.
La Crescenta?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where my parents lived. And I remember I did some construction work I had a job working in a gun dealer, mail order gun dealer, Liberty Arms. It was fun packing weapons and those Filipino throwing knives, the ones you twirl and you open up and all those kind of, all those kind of things, and guns and ammunition and things, mail order stuff. Liberty Arms, it was called. And so then I got a construction job working for the owner who built this tennis court and things like that. So I had my motorcycle, and I was saving up for my motorcycle, and I was very, very happy with it. And we were working in construction, and so the owner's daughter came by, bringing us Kool-Aid and stuff like that, because it was hot, California summer and stuff. I started talking with her, and her father had just gotten her a new Mustang, and she was bored, she was unhappy, and I was thinking that's funny because I just saved up and I bought my first motorcycle, real motorcycle, and I think I was enjoying life more, and I was happy about my motorcycle than she was with the brand new Mustang she just got. So it was some kind of lesson for life in there, whatever. So, okay, where do you want me to go from there?
From there, basically for the next few years you were studying and working, right?
Yeah, well, let me tell you real quick. So I got into, when I went to UCLA, went down there in admissions, there was a Dean Taylor, and he's looking through my application. He says, "Oh, Navy veteran," and stuff like that. He was an old Navy veteran. From that point on, he called the secretary over, and she walked my papers through the rest of the registration process. And we were just sitting there exchanging sea stories, We knew some of the similar ships. We never served in the same ship, but we knew each other's ships and things like that. We knew the ports, we knew the bars and all those things. So he had the secretary. That was my registration process. He had the secretary walk it all through, which was great. That was my welcome to UCLA, which was nice. And
did you lose any friends to the draft? Did you lose any friends to the draft?
No, because my friends, we joined together when I was in high school. So we're there. They were in the same boat as I was. We were veterans. It was great. Except George, he stayed in. He went to Vietnam and everything. He has Parkinson's right now, but he gets he's on like 120% disability from the government. Part of it is because they say it's related to Agent Orange. He was exposed to Agent Orange.
Oh, he was.
Oh, really?
So they figured, they can now they got guns of lawsuits in the beginning. He told me that VA was fighting it and says there's no relation, but they finally caved in, and that just to have a blanket thing now. If you were exposed to Agent Orange,
how many veterans have Parkinson's now?
You have some neurological disease. They just say it's like 40% of it.
I wonder what you were exposed to.
So describe Agent Orange. Like, what were they? What was the whole premise?
Defoliant. They just drop it on the trees to kill the leaves so they'd be able to see from the air. That was the main thing. Denied cover to the enemy.
How quickly was it effective? Like, what was it?
I think it was almost immediate or something like that.
Wow.
Really that much?
Yeah.
So if it touched your skin?
I don't know.
If you inhale the fumes or whatever.
Yeah, but it stayed in the soil. It stayed in the residue. So anybody got exposed to it to some extent. And apparently it has some. Now, the interesting thing is I was talking to George about it. I probably could have a case that my Parkinson's was work-related, but it's too late for me to pursue it now because in quite a bit of my work in the agriculture in Brazil, I think I was exposed to pesticides. Because they were, they did not follow the rules. They were spraying pesticides all over the place. they were not following the rules that they do over here. So it's quite possible I was exposed to it, and they may have something, but it's too late for me to pursue it now. At least I think it's too late.
What would make it too late? I mean, it's not a statute of limitations because.
Yeah, but I mean, how am I going to document it? I mean, I didn't document anything. I never went to the health unit and complained that I was exposed to pesticides.
Well, there could be a
blanket
you
precedent.
You could find another case.
I'll look into it.
That's worth it. You never know.
Yeah,
It might be
you
worth a
never
conversation.
know. So anyway, so George, my buddy, we were talking about veterans and stuff like that. He stayed.
What's
in
George's last name?
Galton.
Okay.
He stayed in the Navy. I got out. He stayed in the Navy. Retired after a couple of years. He drove those gunboats in the rivers in Vietnam, which was pretty tough duty. You can skipper one of those boats up there. And when he retired from the Navy, he joined the police force in Cleveland, worked his way up to captain. A lot of military guys do that, I guess. It's revolving door type of thing, which was great. I visited him one time. And drove around in the cop car, next to him, and we went some bad areas, drug dealers and prostitution, those kind of things. I felt cool sitting in the squad car next to them. So anyway, and he retired. So he's pretty well off financially.
Where does he live?
Ohio. He's pretty well off financially because he has a Navy pension and he has his policeman's pension.
So he gets paid more by the pension than he did as a Navy officer or a Navy.
Doesn't get more, but I mean, I think it all adds up to that. He's probably getting just about his full pay or something like that. I get a pretty good deal too. I'm getting something like I don't recall now what it is, 70% of my salary.
From the Navy.
Wonderful.
No, from the government.
Oh, from the government.
But mother gets half of it.
So you get 35%.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see it. I don't see all of it. I don't see all the benefits of my hard work. Anyway, so losing people to the draft, and then at school, I mean, my friends after that, my friends were students. They had student deferment. They were also worried about their grades because if they slipped their grades, then they get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I didn't lose any close friends to the draft that way because, like I said, they were either veterans already, or they had student deferments, which meant they were not really that worried about the draft as long as they kept their grades up, which I didn't have to worry about, and which was cool too because I didn't have to worry about getting kicked out of school. So I took part of occupying the administration building. This was all, we had these big free speech movements, and we were running around with signs. Clark Kerr was the what's Regent Board of Regents? He was is it Regents the Universities of California? What's the governing body? I think it's Regents. Isn't
Regent?
I think it's Regents, right?
It wasn't.
He was a regent. He was head of the Regents.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go around with signs, saying "Freedom under Clark Kerr." With emphasis on the first letters, in bold. Right. So we occupied the administration building. Got thrown out, tear gassed out. I never got arrested, but I got, pushed out, and I got tear gassed and things like that. Set protest marches, which was cool. So, but I didn't have to worry about it because even if I got kicked out of school, I mean, I was a veteran. And then when I got out of the Navy, I still was in the reserves. So I used to teach at the reserve training center. I used to teach classes in all various Navy things, including electronics and electricity and things like that, whatever. But anyway, then they wanted me to go back in, so I showed up with long hair, and they said, okay, forget it, we don't need you back. So, yeah, because I went through that stage of...
you were a hippie.
Yeah, long hair. And, but at that time in engineering school, there were 3 of us that didn't wear shoes. There were 2 of us that wore sandals, and one that used to go barefoot.
Which one were you?
I was one of the ones with sandals. So the barefoot one, he was not so much of a hippie, he was more of a surfer dude.
Mm-hmm.
But still, nonconformist and things like that. And long hair. We didn't see that many of those back in those days. Long hair, male students, things like that. So
What year did you graduate with your undergrad?
I went in 64. Let me see. Got out of the Navy. I guess 68.
So 4 years.
Yeah, I did it in 4 years.
With a BS and.
Yeah, I got a BS in engineering.
And then you stayed in UCLA?
Yeah, well, in those days, the UCLA, their philosophy was you had a degree in engineering. That's all. And they taught you everything. I mean, I had electronics, I had electricity, I had nuclear engineering, I had everything. They give you the basics and all of that. You have team projects. My team was the only one we actually did get uranium and concentrated it. So we actually went into the Mojave Desert to an old abandoned uranium mine, mined our ore,
wow.
Extracted it, with Geiger counter, looked for it, found it, extracted it, and pulverized it, and extracted the uranium, concentrated it, and everything else. So we actually developed not fissionable material, but yeah, it was fissionable material we developed. Not bomb grade, but we did develop some fissionable material. That was one of my engineering projects in UCLA, which was interesting. I had others. One of the other ones I had was try to correlate the weight of pennies with their age. It didn't work out too well. I had some very accurate balances, and I measured the weight of the pennies.
See if they got circulated and lost in
yeah,
small
but couldn't really find good relations because it's so many variables in there. I mean,
the manufacturing itself is already not.
That has there's some variation in there, and then the other variation is that people, just because it was minted in 1968, it could have been in somebody's piggy bank for 10 years.
Yeah.
Whereas something else got passed around by sweaty fingers continuously in slot machines and things like that. So. Speaking of slot machines, my recreation at that time was I used to take a Greyhound to Vegas on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I sleep on a bus, and I get in and I gamble all weekend, and take a bus back and sleep on the bus.
You wouldn't sleep there?
No, I did, lose time that could be gambling. And back in those days,
would you go by yourself, or you had?
I usually went by myself. Yeah. I used to play at the El Cortez in downtown Vegas, and in those days they would give you, as they still do, they give you chits for free meals.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want you to leave the casino. The restaurant would have an entrance from the casino, and the exit was in the casino. And only fire exits that would ring out alarms would be to the outside. You couldn't go outside, so they didn't want to lose you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was to their benefit if you eat in a casino, and continue playing afterwards. So they give you discount coupons or either total, complete free breakfast and whatever. And they still used to give you cigarettes in those days. I still smoke. Give you free cigarettes and they give you free drinks too. So it was a good deal. And I usually made a little bit of money, or at least I was there for a good time. I used to play a lot of craps. Got pretty good, and sometimes I'd get in a big, I'd roll for half an hour or whatever, 45 minutes, without settling out. And I'd be playing the minimum bet, which was like $1 or something. And some high roller was betting $100 with me. So, at the end of my bowls or something like this, maybe I made $50.
Wow.
He made $5,000. So every now and then, that would happen, the guy would tip me. That was just SOP. And you see a lot of young kids playing minimum bets, and you see old timers who'd bet along with them, the big money. Yeah, I didn't want to ride my motorcycle to Vegas. I used to ride my motorcycle. I had a girlfriend in San Francisco then. So I used to ride my motorcycle from LA to San Francisco.
You liked the long distance relationships?
Maybe that's some kind of psychological thing.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to see them all the time.
That's weird. Yeah, but usually I'd meet them somewhere else, and then we just keep in touch. But yeah, I think you're right.
You kept it in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, she lived in, what's the artist hangout? Sausalito.
Yeah.
On Alcatraz Way, something or other, Alcatraz Way, the number. I could still find the house. So that was 101, I used to travel 101 in 99. This was before 5. It was a trip and a half.
Go all the way up by like Carmel picture and all that.
Yeah. What I used to do is
It's like 10 hours.
sometimes I just take off into Kings Canyon or those places, just take off in a motorcycle and just keep going. Used to carry enough clothes to last me. And, you'd wash in a hotel room or something like this. You'd wash your underwear, wash your socks, and tie them to the back of the bike and drive as you're driving next day. So, and just go somewhere without it. In those days, things were friendlier. I remember one time it was like, in retrospect, I wouldn't try things like that now. I came across a car accident. A guy who drove into a ditch or something like that. And he told me, hey, why don't you drive over there to my brother-in-law's farm or something like this and tell him where I am. I said, okay. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I drove up to this farmer's house and pounded on the door. Nowadays you'd probably get shot or something like that. But in those days, I don't know if people were still more innocent. I knock on the door and there I'm maybe in a motorcycle says, hey, Joe is such and such or whatever the name was. He asked me to stop by. He drove his car into a ditch and up there or something like that. So.
Now you have a phone though.
Yeah, back in those days, you'd have to go
from
from phone booth to phone booth if you wanted to communicate, and you have to carry a lot.
They had to be near a phone answer.
Yeah, and they had to be, like if you were trying to contact people, it would be, it's way different now. In those days, and you have to carry coins.
Mm-hmm.
And communications is so much easier now.
Where did you used to eat in LA?
This one girlfriend I had, we used to enjoy people watching. So like, we'd be doing something, go to a dance concert or something like that, so we get out of a dance concert. Our favorite places was, one of our favorite places was the International House of Pancakes on Sunset or Hollywood, one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because, A, that was one of the few restaurants that was open all night. And B, you see a lot of famous people in there.
Mm-hmm.
You just sit there and you see actors and directors and things like this walking in. So.
Not the case anymore.
Well, that was back in those days,
Yeah.
I used to go. I remember I ran into movie stars in Farmers Market. The Farmers Market was open all night, or it was open late. One of the two. This is on. What's the cross street before Western, north south? The cross of Hollywood and Sunset. Huh? Vine. No, what crosses? Yeah, I guess it was Vine. That's where the Farmers Market is.
Mm-hmm.
That was open late. Either was open till midnight or open all night or something like that. It's the same thing. You'd go down there and food shopping, come around the corner or something of an aisle and I remember running into Sophia Loren.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was interesting. It was cool. Hollywood was nice. My cousin she was into acting. She was Screen Actors Guild. She used to get me in private club parties, which was cool. We have all the society things, and you have all the actresses and the wannabes. And
was she already married at the time?
She was divorced. I mean, she got married. She was a child bride.
What's her maiden name? So it's Ilona.
Pliska.
Pliska.
Pliska. Yeah.
And what's her first name?
Ilona.
Ilona. She married a GI when she was in Austria. She married a U.S. soldier while he was stationed in Austria, and they came to New York. I visited her when we emigrated to the U.S. We landed in New York after 36 hours of flying across the Atlantic from Shannon to Gander. It was Idlewild International Airport. It's now Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, we visited them. They lived in Jersey, across the Hudson River. Beautiful apartment, with a view of the Manhattan skyline, the whole thing like that. So she worked, and she started working as a model at that time. He was a radio announcer. And then he moved to Hollywood, and she followed him. But then the marriage broke up. I guess the main reason it broke up is she wanted to have a family, he didn't. At least that's what she told me. Turns out she never had any kids though, anyway. I don't know if she was unable to or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm.
But their marriage broke up.
Well, did she get remarried?
She lived with people, and I guess she got remarried a couple of times too, and things like that. It was one of those typical things, where she was sort of crazy. And she worked with Spike Jones. She was a lot of album covers by what's the black singer Belafonte. She was a lot of album covers with him. She was on a Sinatra album cover. She had some supporting roles in TV series. She made a bunch of movies, and one of them was really funny because I forget what the name of the movie was. Something like Margie or something. She was Margie, but the problem was, that role wasn't very big because she got killed in the first 5 minutes of the movie, and that was it. You never saw her again. So, yeah. So anyway.
Would you spend a lot of time with her?
Off and on. She used to come to me with boyfriend troubles and things like this, and cry on my shoulder and stuff like that. So, and sometimes it was like that, like, she needed an escort to go to a party or something like that. And so I'd go with her. And the idea, she was there because she wanted to, run into an ex-boyfriend again or something like this or whatever. So anyway, we were talking about restaurants. I remember the Whiskey Go-Go on, I think that's still
Sunset.
That's on Sunset. Well, the first one.
Well, it just changed, I think. Yeah. I don't think it's
the
there
first
anymore.
one. It was the Cinnamon Cinder.
Now it's Pro.
The Cinnamon Cinder was an interesting nightclub because it allowed 18-year-olds in, and you couldn't drink. You had I think they either served no alcohol, or you need to have your wrist stamped to get alcohol or something like that, whatever. But it was the only dance club that allowed 18-year-olds. When I first came to LA, I went with a girl I dated some girls that were not 21 yet. So we used to go to Cinnamon Cinder because you could go there and dance. But then I started dating older girls that were 21. So, and one of them, she used to dance at the Whiskey Go. I mean, she'd do shows, and she got me into it too. So we used to demonstrate the new dance crazes at the Whiskey Go. So, all the different ones, the Watusi or the mashed potato, or all those things. So just to dance on stage, the Whiskey Go-Go. It was not, in those days, it was not looked at something effeminate or something.
That was your balance back then.
It was better. It was better. It used to piss me off, by the way. That's one of the Parkinson stuff pisses me off. I can't dance anymore. I still love dance. Well, Peaches saw me dance right before.
Well, you saw you slow dance, I guess. I don't know you call it dancing. Never seen you bust a move or anything.
Oh really? You don't remember. No. Mother and I used to dance to some stuff.
Maybe a little twisting here and there. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, anyway. So, Whiskey Go-Go. Other restaurants. Well, there was Mel's, the original ones. At least as far as I knew, it was the original ones. That was in Santa Monica on Wilshire. I think on Wilshire Boulevard. Or Sunset Boulevard. Going close to the beach.
Perpendicular. I mean, there's another one then. There's a
Santa Monica.
Norm's Diner in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's been there. But Mel's is in Hollywood.
Maybe I'm mixing them up. Maybe it's the Norms that I'm thinking of there. We used to go to Mel's too. Otherwise, restaurants.
So these were all late night places.
Yeah.
You never ate during the day.
Sure I did. Student Union, UCLA. Student Union. That's where you used to eat during the day.
How about we take a break?
You can stop recording. Oh, you got tired of listening to me. There you go.
No, it's okay. We're losing the momentum on the speech, so it's a good time to pause. We can just take a break.
Your
Pick up with your grad school.